This video is going to talk about electric trailer brakes, how they work, and how to install them. Here's the inside of a Dexter electric trailer brake from my 30-foot Airstream. It is the left-hand brake, as noted on the label, which means the wheels are going to go around this way. So the wheels will rotate this way. Now, how the brake works, you can see there are two brake shoes. This is the forward brake, this is the reverse brake. This is an electromagnet that's encased in plastic. When you step on the brakes in your car, electricity is sent through these wires, through your trailer umbilical cord, energizing this electromagnet, which sucks up to the drum, and as the drum is rotating, goes around like this, and this arm here actuates the brakes by pushing the brake out that way. If you're moving in reverse, the wheel is going to go around like this. The magnet, when energized, gets sucked up like this, pushes this way, and pushes this shoe against the brake drum. These two springs that attach to this point here are pulling the brake shoes in. Down here you see the brake adjuster. Every time we move in the forward direction and apply the brakes, this brake shoe goes this way. It pulls on this wire. This wire works a lever down here. The lever comes up, hits this star wheel, and rotates the star wheel. So every time it comes up, it's going to want to rotate the star wheel. As the star wheel rotates, there's a thread in there. The thread pushes this piece out, and it pushes these two brake drums out away from each other. If they're already all the way out, this star wheel will not move. The lever will just slip across the tangs on there, and you won't get any adjustment more than what you actually need. Now, these brake shoes are self-adjusting, you can tell, because they have this cable coming down that works this arm. If you have manual adjusting brakes, you don't have this cable or this arm, and you come through a slot on the back up, and you put a screwdriver in there, and you move this star wheel yourself by prying up or down on the teeth. And if you can see, the teeth are flat on one side and they're slanted on the other side. You want to make the flat part go with your screwdriver, and that will be adjusting your brakes out. Normally what I would do if I was adjusting my brakes manually, the wheel would be on the camper, the hub would be on the camper, this would all be enclosed, and all you'd see out here is the tire. And I would jack up my trailer, rotate the tire, and I'd listen to see if the brake shoes were rubbing against the drum. If they're rubbing against the drum, you're adjusted properly. If they're not, then you can go behind, come up through the slot, use your screwdriver to give it some adjustment. When you can't adjust anymore, you've adjusted too far, and your wheel should not move at all. So then you want to go backwards, one or two clicks, to pull the brake shoes in, till you can just hear the brake shoes lightly scraping against the drum, and it's not too hard to move. If you wanted to replace just the brake shoes, you could. You take off these two springs. Sometimes there's just one spring that goes from here over to here. This one has two springs. You take off these springs by pushing down on them and giving them a 90-degree rotation, and there's a thing sticking up through the brake shoe and to the backing plate that looks like a nail with a flat end on it. So you take these two off, and then you take this one here off, and you bring that adjuster out, and then you can replace the brake shoes. Now what I found is it's a lot more work just to replace the brake shoes than it is to replace this whole assembly. If I want to replace the whole assembly, I have 5 nuts I take off. I cut the wires on the back and I pull that assembly off. Put the new assembly on, reattach the 5 nuts and the washers, reattach the wires using a new crimp, and then put the hub and brake drum back on and the wheel back on top of that. The hardest part of changing your brakes, if you're going to use the whole backing plate, is getting your wheel and hub off. There are 2 kinds of wheels and hubs. There's the Neverlube, which I have. It's a much more difficult hub to remove because you have to use an impact driver and you have to torque it to a certain amount of torque. The old style spindles just have a castle nut. You pull the cotter pin out, remove the castle nut, pull the wheel hub and its bearings off, and at that time you can repack your wheel bearings if you want to. Now one idea you might have while you're trying to do the adjusting, especially if you're adjusting from the back side on your manual adjustment, is you can adjust this thing all the way down in so that it's closest together, and then all of a sudden you can't move the adjusting wheel, and you might think, hey, it's tight, it's frozen, it's probably rusty, I'll spray some WD-40 in there. Don't do that. Just remember, it can move 2 ways, and you're trying to move this out to bring the shoes closer to the drum. You don't ever want to spray any lubricants inside of your brake drum. Let's talk about when you should replace your brakes. Your brakes will wear down over time. Let's measure the distance. This is about 530 seconds. 530 seconds. These brake linings start off at about 316 or 630 seconds. This brake shoe has not worn at all, and it has about 60,000 miles on it. So my truck is stopping my trailer most of the time. I get a little bit of help from my brakes, but not a whole lot. I decided to replace these brake shoes just based on mileage. At 60,000 miles, I figured some parts of this could be wearing out. The puck before, I've had these pucks wear through to the windings before, and then it gives you a real funny message on your trailer brake controller. It'll tell you have a short circuit, then it'll say no, you have an open circuit, and then sometimes the brake just works like it's supposed to. This arm here can break. I had that happen on a brand new set of brakes when the trailer was new. The puck fell off, the arm broke, and it happened on my 2 right side wheels. Of course, your shoes can wear out, things can rust and get hard to move in there, so I figured it was a good time, and I just replaced all 4 brake backing plates with new shoes, new pucks, and everything. So talking about why my brakes might not be working right, could be adjusting. I need some adjustment on it. Could be my shoes are worn out. Could be one of these springs is broken, or one of these is broken. Could be this arm is broken, or this puck is bad, or a wire is not connected, so I'm not getting the electricity into my brakes. Or it could be that the drum surface, either the face of it or the circumference of it, is worn out, and if you've used your brakes all the way up and this becomes just metal pushing against metal, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have to buy a new drum or have your old drum turned or replace it. So those are some things that can go wrong with brakes. Again, I just replaced the whole assembly, and now I've got all new equipment.